The grand chamber of the Eternal Oak fell silent as High Counselor Elindra raised her ancient staff. 10,000 years of elven wisdom flowed through her veins, and today she would guide her people toward their destiny. The circular room, carved from living wood that still pulsed with magic, held the most powerful elves in existence. They had gathered to discuss a problem that had grown too large to ignore any longer. The humans. "My fellow council members," Elindra began, her voice carrying the weight of centuries. "We have debated this matter for 300 years. We've sent diplomats. We have offered treaties. We have shown patience that no other race could possibly understand. And still, the humans spread like a plague across our sacred lands." Councillor Tharaval stood from his seat, his silver robes catching the magical light that filtered through crystal windows. "Perhaps we should continue negotiations. The humans are primitive, yes, but they are not without reason. Their short lives make them eager for quick solutions." Laughter echoed through the chamber. It was not kind laughter. "Quick solutions?" Elder Maley spoke, her voice dripping with contempt. "They breed like insects. In the time it takes one of our children to learn basic enchantment, humans create 3 generations. Their cities now number the hundreds. Their population has grown beyond counting." Elindra nodded slowly. She had seen the reports. When she was young, merely 2,000 years old, humans had been scattered tribes with stone tools. Now they built towers of metal and glass. They dug deep into mountains and crossed oceans in ships of iron. They had done in centuries what her people had taken millennia to achieve. It was unnatural. It was frightening. And it had to be stopped. "The vote must happen today," Elindra declared. "We can delay no longer. The human kingdom of Valdoria has refused our final demand to withdraw from the Silverwood Forest. They claim they need the resources for their growing population. They speak of compromise and sharing." "Sharing?" Councillor Ilrath slammed his fist against his ornate chair. "Our ancestors planted those trees before humans crawled out of caves. They dare speak of sharing what was never theirs to take." The anger in the room was thick enough to taste. Elindra allowed it to build. She needed this emotion, this righteous fury that would carry them forward into what must come next. "Brothers and sisters of the eternal race," she continued, "we have but one path remaining: total war, complete victory. We shall push humanity back to the wastelands they crawled from, or we shall remove them from this world entirely." The words hung in the air like smoke from a dying fire. Councillor Tharaval tried once more. "We have never fought a total war. Not even against the demon hordes 10,000 years ago did we commit everything. Is this wise? The humans are many, and they are not without their own strength." "Strength?" Elder Males laughed again. "They cannot use magic. Their lives are over before they can master any true skill. They are weak, Tharaval. Individually weak, collectively chaotic. Their kingdoms fight each other as often as they fight others. They will crumble before our united might." Elindra raised her hand for silence. "Let us vote. All in favor of declaring total war upon humanity, raise your staff of office." One by one, the staffs rose. Even Tharaval, after a long moment of hesitation, lifted his staff toward the ceiling. The decision was unanimous. "Then it is done," Elindra said. "May the Ancient Ones guide our arrows true. We march within the month." The Elven army that gathered at the borders of the Silverwood was the largest in recorded history. 300,000 warriors, each one trained for at least a century in the art of killing. Mages who could call storms from clear skies. Archers who could split an arrow from half a mile away. Cavalry mounted on creatures that humans believed were myths. General Karath looked out at his magnificent force and felt nothing but confidence. The humans had perhaps 50,000 soldiers in their nearest garrison. It would be a slaughter, quick and clean. Within a year, the human presence near Elven lands would be a memory. The first battle proved him right. The humans sent 10,000 soldiers to meet them at the river crossing. Elven arrows darkened the sky and fell like deadly rain. Human shields meant nothing against enchanted steel. Human armor crumpled like paper before elven blades. By sunset, the river ran red, and not a single elf had fallen. Kara celebrated that night. His officers drank wine that was older than human civilization and toasted to their inevitable victory. They did not notice the human scout who watched from a distant hill, writing down everything he saw. The second battle was different. The humans had brought 40,000 soldiers this time, and strange metal tubes that they positioned on hills overlooking the battlefield. Karath ordered the charge anyway. What could primitive human weapons do against elven magic? The thunder that followed was like nothing the elves had ever heard. Fire and smoke erupted from those metal tubes, and death flew faster than any arrow. The first ranks of elven cavalry simply disappeared, transformed into bloody mist and shattered bone. The tubes roared again and again, never stopping, never tiring. Cannons, a wounded officer gasped as he was dragged back to camp. They called them cannons. Kurith lost 20,000 warriors that day. The humans lost 30,000. But while the elves retreated in shock, human reinforcements were already marching from the east. General Karath sent word back to the council, requesting additional forces. The reply came swiftly. More warriors were coming, more mages. Victory was still certain. They assured him. Humans could not sustain such losses for long. But they could. They did. As weeks turned to months, Karath began to understand something terrible. For every human soldier that fell, 2 more took his place. They came from cities he had never heard of, speaking dialects he could not understand. They brought new weapons constantly, each one more deadly than the last. Their commanders made mistakes, yes, but they learned from those mistakes with frightening speed. The elves did not learn. They could not learn. 10,000 years of tradition told them exactly how wars were fought, and they fought that way, even as it killed them. The Battle of Greymore changed everything. The humans had developed new cannons, smaller ones that a single soldier could carry. They called them rifles. When the elven mages began their great spell to summon lightning, human sharpshooters killed them from distances no bow could match. The lightning never came. The elven charge collapsed into chaos. For the first time in the war, humans captured an elven general alive. They treated him well, gave him food and water, and asked him questions about elven culture and society. Then they released him with a message for the council. We do not wish to destroy you. We never did. All we ever wanted was a fair share of a world big enough for everyone. But if you continue this war, we will end it on our terms. High Counselor Alindra read the message and threw it into the fire. Surrender? Never. The eternal race did not surrender to insects. She ordered every remaining warrior to the front lines. She activated ancient weapons that had not been used since the Demon Wars. She committed everything. The humans responded by committing more. Their factories worked day and night, producing weapons that seemed to multiply like the humans themselves. They built flying machines that dropped fire on elven cities. They created bombs that could level entire forests in a single blast. They developed gases that killed without leaving a mark. Magic that was not magic at all, but something far more terrifying. Science, they called it. And while individual humans lived short lives, their knowledge did not die with them. They wrote everything down, passed it to their children, improved upon it with each generation. An elven mage might spend 500 years mastering a single spell. A human scientist could transform the world in 50 years and train 10 successors before dying. The war lasted 4 years. In that time, the elven population dropped by more than half. Ancient cities that had stood for 15,000 years burned to ash. The great library of Mythendril, containing knowledge from before the first human existed, was destroyed by something the humans called an airstrike. When the final elven fortress fell, Only 3 council members remained alive. Alindra was one of them. She stood in chains before a human general barely 40 years old, a child by Elven standards, and listened as he read the terms of surrender. The elves would withdraw from all lands claimed by humanity. They would share their magical knowledge. They would accept human observers in their remaining cities. They would never again raise arms against the human nations. "You should have accepted peace when we offered it," the general said, not unkindly. "We never wanted this war. We never wanted to destroy your people. But you gave us no choice." Alindra wanted to hate him. She wanted to curse his entire species with her dying breath. But looking at this young man, this infant who had somehow defeated the greatest civilization the world had ever known, she felt only exhaustion. "How?" she asked. "How did you do it? You have no magic. Your lives are barely a blink of our eyes. How did you defeat us?" The general smiled. It was the smile of someone explaining something obvious to a confused child. "Because every generation of humans faces the same choice," he said. "Learn and adapt, or die and be forgotten. We have been making that choice since we first walked under the stars. Change is not our enemy. It is the only friend we have ever had. Your people lived so long that you forgot how to grow. You became perfect, and perfection cannot improve." He paused, looking out the window at the smoking ruins of what had once been a proud elven city. "We could never be perfect," he continued. "We could never be immortal. So instead, we became better. Every single day, in every single way, we became just a little bit better. And eventually, all those tiny improvements added up to something you could not match." Alindra signed the surrender documents with a hand that trembled. Behind her, the last elves of the council wept silently for a world that was forever lost. The humans did not celebrate their victory. There were no parades, no monuments to conquest. They simply returned to their cities and continued building, continued growing, continued changing. Within a decade, the war was taught in their schools as a cautionary tale about the dangers of conflict. Within a century, most humans could not even remember why it had been fought. The elves remembered. They would always remember. And slowly, painfully, they began to learn the lesson that humanity had been trying to teach them all along. Peace had always been an option. They had simply refused to see it until everything else was gone.